The night everything shattered, we were lying in bed. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of Linda's phone as she scrolled through her usual feed. I glanced at her absently, her expression calm, almost serene, until it wasn't. A video popped up, and I watched her face morph from contentment to sheer horror. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, and the phone slipped from her trembling fingers, landing on the bed between us. The video continued playing, its contents unmistakable. It was me. With Sarah, her best friend. The angle was clear, the scene undeniable, and the audio, well, it left no room for doubt. Her voice was sharp and guttural, cutting through the silence like a blade. "What the F*** is this?" she screamed, snatching the phone and shoving it in my face. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. Instead, I met her gaze with a calm, measured look. "It's exactly what it looks like." She shot out of bed, her voice rising, a mixture of rage and disbelief. You cheated on me? With Sarah? Are you out of your goddamn mind?" I stood up slowly, adjusting my shirt as though this were any other conversation. "You're upset," I said, my tone even, almost soothing. "I understand. But screaming won't change anything." Her rage was a storm. She grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and hurled it at me. It shattered against the wall, missing me by inches. "You bastard! How could you?" I didn't react. I just watched her pace, her fury a living, breathing thing. Her face was a mask of pain and disbelief. "Do you even care? Do you even realize what you've done?" I tilted my head slightly, my calm demeanor stoking the fire of her anger. "Of course I do. But maybe you should ask yourself why this happened." Her eyes narrowed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Don't you dare turn this around on me. I didn't do anything to deserve this." I shrugged, sitting back down on the edge of the bed. Maybe not. But you might want to consider why I'm not angry, Linda. Why I'm not throwing things or screaming." She froze, her chest heaving, confusion creeping into her expression. "What the hell are you talking about?" I leaned back, my gaze steady. "Figure it out." The tension in the room was suffocating. She stood there, breathing shallow, the weight of my words settling on her shoulders. For a moment, it looked like she might say something, but instead, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Minutes later, she returned, her face still red with fury. "You're going to sit there and act like you're justified? Like this is normal?" I stayed seated, calm and composed. "You want answers, Linda? Fine. Let's talk about Sarah. Let's talk about everything." She stopped mid-step, her face a storm of pain and rage. "Go ahead. Tell me why you destroyed our marriage. Tell me why you ed my best friend." I clasped my hands together, leaning forward slightly. "It started months ago. She came over one night while you were out. She said she felt lonely and needed someone to talk to." Linda's lip curled, her fists clenching. "And that somehow led to you screwing her?" "It didn't happen all at once," I replied, my tone maddeningly even. "At first, it was innocent, talking, listening, being there for her. But one thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were on the couch. The same couch where you and I usually sit." She flinched as though I'd struck her, but I wasn't done. "Not yet. It wasn't just once, Linda. It happened again. And again. At her place. At our place. In your car." She was enthusiastic. "Let's put it that way." "Stop," she screamed, her voice breaking. "Just stop." But I didn't. I leaned closer, my voice cold and deliberate. "She told me things about you, Linda. Things you confided in her. How you felt lonely. How you missed the way things used to be between us. She used your words to justify what we were doing." Her legs wobbled, and she sank onto the bed, her face in her hands. "You're a monster," she whispered. "Am I?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Or am I just the man you created? You think I didn't notice, Linda? The texts. The late-night calls. Tommy wasn't as clever as you thought." Her head snapped up, her face pale. "Tommy has nothing to do with this." "Doesn't he?" I asked, my voice laced with venom. You think I didn't notice how you lit up every time his name came up? How you suddenly had so many errands to run? Her silence was deafening. You had no right, she said quietly, tears streaming down her face. No right. I barked out a laugh, standing abruptly. You gave me every right the moment you decided to sneak around with your high school sweetheart. Don't stand there and act like the victim, Linda. You're not innocent. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came. I leaned closer, my voice low and cold. Now you know, Linda. Now you understand what it feels like. She buried her face in her hands, her sobs filling the room. I watched her crumble for a moment, then turned and walked out. I didn't leave the house. I sat downstairs in the living room, the cold glow of streetlights filtering through the blinds. My mind wasn't racing, it was calm, calculating. Hours later, she appeared, her steps hesitant. Her face was pale, streaked with dried tears, but her eyes burned with a new fury. You planned this, she hissed. I tilted my head, gesturing for her to sit. Do you really want to know, Linda? Do you really want to hear how much I know? She didn't sit. She stood there, trembling. Tell me. If you've destroyed everything, at least have the decency to explain why. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. All right. Let's start with Tommy. Her breath hitched. What about him? I know about the texts, the late-night calls, the secret meetings. She shook her head. You're lying. You don't know anything. I chuckled coldly. You think so? I followed you, Linda. Every time you said you were running errands, every time you were working late. I saw you with him. At that little cafe downtown. The one with the corner booth you always liked. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. I saw you holding his hand, laughing, kissing him in public. I watched you walk into his apartment the night you said you had a big meeting at work. Her legs buckled, but she caught herself. You're insane, she whispered. Am I? I said, my voice cutting through her denial. Or were you just sloppy? She stared at me, trembling, her silence an admission. I waited outside for hours, sitting in the suffocating stillness of my car, watching the building. When you finally emerged, your hair was disheveled, your clothes wrinkled in ways that spoke volumes. I didn't need confirmation, but there it was anyway, delivered like a blow to the chest. Now, standing in front of me, your tears streamed freely, cutting lines down your face as your body trembled. Why are you doing this? Why are you telling me all of this? I rose slowly, towering over you, my presence cold and unyielding. Because you deserve to know how it feels, Linda. You deserve to know that every smile you gave him, every kiss, every touch, it was all being watched. By me. Your knees gave out, and you collapsed into the chair behind you, sobbing uncontrollably. I leaned down, close enough to feel your ragged breath, my voice low and sharp. You broke us, Linda. Not me. You. And now, you get to live with it. Your sobs filled the room, echoing off the walls like the haunting aftermath of a storm. Your shoulders shook violently under the weight of my words, and for a moment, I thought you might faint. But then you looked up, your eyes red and swollen, wild with desperation and fury. You're sick, you spat through your tears, your voice trembling. You've been watching me like some kind of psycho, following me, taking notes on my every move. I shrugged, unfazed by your accusation. I had to, Linda. You weren't going to tell me the truth, were you? You think I wanted this? To see it all unfold, piece by disgusting piece. You slammed your fist into the armrest, your rage bubbling over. You had no right. You're just as guilty as I am. Am I? My voice snapped like a whip, rising for the first time. Tell me, Linda, did I betray you first? Did I meet someone in secret? Or was it you? You decided our vows didn't matter anymore. You turned us into this. You flinched, my words striking you harder than any physical blow. But I wasn't finished. I pressed on, refusing to let you recover. Do you know how many nights I sat outside his apartment, watching you? Wondering if maybe I was wrong? Praying that it wasn't true. My voice cracked, just slightly, but I forced it steady. But it was, wasn't it? Your lips quivered as though you wanted to deny it, but instead, you whispered, "Why? Why didn't you just confront me? Why go through all of this?" I laughed bitterly, the sound cold and hollow. "Because confrontation wouldn't have been enough, Linda. I needed you to feel it, the humiliation, the betrayal. I wanted you to understand what it's like to watch someone you love give themselves to someone else." You shot to your feet, swaying as though your legs could barely hold you. "You're a monster," you hissed, your voice weak but filled with venom. "A manipulative, heartless monster." I stepped closer, forcing you to meet my gaze. "Maybe. But I learned from the best, didn't I?" Your face crumpled, and you turned away, stumbling toward the stairs. But before you could escape, my voice cut through the silence like a blade. "This isn't over, Linda. Not even close." You froze mid-step, your shoulders tense. "What else could you possibly do to me?" you whispered, your voice barely audible. I smirked, though you couldn't see it. "You'll find out soon enough." The sound of your footsteps faded, leaving me alone in the oppressive quiet of the house. I waited, my resolve solidifying with every passing moment. Then, with deliberate slowness, I retrieved the envelope I had been keeping for this very moment. When you came back down, your face was pale, drawn, and tired. Your eyes flickered to the envelope in my hands as I sat on the couch, tapping it lightly against my palm. "What now?" you asked, your voice hoarse and filled with dread. I gestured for you to sit. "This is the final piece, Linda. The last chapter of our story." You hesitated, but eventually, you sank into the chair across from me, your trembling hands gripping the armrests. I handed you the envelope. "Go on. Open it." Your fingers fumbled with the seal, tearing it open. Papers spilled into your lap, legal documents. As your eyes scanned the words, realization dawned, and your mouth fell open. "Divorce," you croaked, your voice barely above a whisper. "You're divorcing me." "That's right," I said, leaning back with a calm that seemed to enrage you further. "And if you keep reading, you'll notice something else." Your eyes darted back to the papers, flipping through them frantically. Then you froze, horror dawning on your face. "No. No, you can't do this." "Oh, but I can," I replied, my tone icy. "Everything we own together, every bank account, every asset, it's all mine now. You're left with nothing." You shook your head, tears streaming. "We built this life together. You can't just take it all." "Actually, I can. And I have," I said coldly. "While you were sneaking around with Tommy, I was busy making sure everything, every investment, every account, was shifted into my name. You signed the papers yourself, Linda. Remember that. Or were you too distracted to notice?" Your face twisted in anguish as the full weight of my words settled in. "You set me up," you whispered. "I did," I admitted without hesitation. "And it wasn't even hard. You were so caught up in your lies, so busy running off with him, you didn't even see it coming. You stood, your body shaking with rage. 'You're evil,' you hissed. 'You've destroyed everything.' I rose to my feet, towering over you. 'No, Linda. You destroyed everything. I just made sure you paid for it.' Your sobs broke the silence, sharp and jagged. For a fleeting moment, I almost felt pity. But then I remembered every night I spent alone, watching your betrayal. The pity vanished. 'Sign the papers,' I said coldly. 'Make it easy on yourself. Or don't. Either way, it's over.' You collapsed into the chair, clutching the papers as if they were the last fragments of a life you no longer recognized. 'One last thing,' I said, turning toward the door. You looked up, your face soaked with tears. 'I sent the photos of you and Tommy to his wife. I thought she deserved to know the truth. You can thank me later.' Your mouth opened in shock, but no words came. 'You're done,' I finished for you, my voice sharp and final. 'I'm done. And now so are you.' With that, I turned and walked out, leaving behind the ruins of a life we had once built together. As the cold night air hit my face, I didn't feel sorrow or regret. I felt freedom, unshackled and absolute.